here we are again. My good friend and colleague and also co-director for the Master of Arts in Apologetics and Polemics, Dr. Daniel Janosik, who is a few hundred miles away from me. That's like we're right next door, isn't it? Good to have you here, Daniel.
Jay, it's good to see you, and I'm looking forward to this class. We've got a lot of good information to cover, so we'll go into that and give a good explanation now.
Well, class, we're talking about a new class, a new course. And this is the last of the 10 courses that we're teaching here in the MAPI program. We've done 9 already in the last 2 years. We've only been going for 2 years. This is number 10. We're at the last one. Then we're going to start again from scratch and start with number 1 again in June. But right now we want to introduce this last course. It is IS 510, and it's called Methodology of Mission, or Mission Methodologies, different ways of doing mission methods, doing different kinds of models that have been working or have been used. Some of them are brilliant, some of them are not so, some of them are detrimental. And so we need to bring these to the fore. And what Daniel and I are going to do is we're going to introduce about 8 or 9 of these models as we go through these 8 weeks. Well, all of our courses are always 8 weeks long, and we're starting this one at the end of this month on the 28th, Monday the 28th. Mark that in your calendar. That is not too far away. So if you want to do this course with us on methodology to missions, you need to register. Here is I'm going to show it right down at the bottom. There you can see the email, info@ves.edu. Let me repeat that again, info@ves.edu. You need to register for this course before the 28th of March. Now, Daniel, we're going to be doing 8 lectures starting from March the 28th and going to May the 23rd. We're taking off 1 week during the Easter week, but we'll be going through every Monday night, always at 8 o'clock in the evening, Eastern time. And we go from 8 o'clock to roughly 10 o'clock, depending on the Q&A, because these are all Zoomed courses. These are all Zoom webinar lectures, which means you, the student, you can be anywhere in the world, in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to come to us. In fact, we're not in the same place. I'm a few hundred miles away. We're both on the East Coast. I'm in Pennsylvania, and he's south of me. Daniel, you and I, we're teaching all these courses hundreds of miles away. That's the beauty of technology. Now, let's go through each one of these courses, Daniel, if you don't mind doing that. What's the first lecture we'll be doing? What's number 1?
Well, this will be the introduction to the whole course, because we like to have an introductory period to get to know you all as students. But we're going to do an historical overview of the methods used over the last 1400 years. So we'll just get a introductory overview at this point, and then we're going to have a breakdown of the most popular methodologies employed in the 21st century. So this will give you a good idea of where we're going, and it'll help you put together kind of an overview of the whole course from this first lecture.
The second lecture, which will be the following Monday, we're going to look at what we call the tent making model. Tent making, why do we give it that name? Because that's the model that Paul used. Paul was a tent maker. Everywhere he went, he did not depend on people to take care of him. He moved into a city and he repaired tents. He made tents and then sold them, and that's how he took care of himself. Now, what we're going to do in every one of these models, Daniel and I are going to play 2 different parts. Daniel, explain your part. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to show a little bit of the background and the history, theological information, support for these different models. And then I will give you some aspects of the benefits. I'm going to focus on what works well with this particular model. I will give you some examples of that, some anecdotes, some people who are involved in these different aspects of this type of movement. So I'll take the benefit part.
And then I come in and I confront Daniel and I bring the cautionary parts of it. There are some things we need to be aware of. There are some cautions in every one of these models. So I am in some way taking on the role of being the naysayer. Daniel is going to be all the good stuff and tell you what's great about all of these models, and I'm going to say, wait a minute. There are problems with every one of these models. So he's the yes man, I'm the no man, you might say. But that's what we're going to start with in the second week. What are we going to do in the third week, Daniel?
Well, the third week we'll be dealing with two models, the program model and the proclamation model. Again, I will take the background, theological aspects, benefits, and then you will take the other side. So what exactly would we be dealing with the program and the proclamation models?
Program, we're going to look at all the different programs, and that's basically no other word to really use for that, the different models that have been used to get the message out. All the ones that have been used, not just in the 21st century, way back in the 1800s, they were using programs. They were using programs in the 1900s, how those worked. Now, Daniel, of course, is going to give you the support for them and show you how they have actually affirmed missions. And I'm going to give you the cautions that there have been some problems. Proclamation is when you actually proclaim, and this is preaching. This is the one-way communication. It's coming from us to them. And there are many, many models. In some ways, programs, different models of programs like hospitals and schools and orphanages, these kind of programs were probably the ones much more popular in the last century, not so popular today. Proclamation is still all over the world, especially with the internet and with radio and television and satellites. So proclamation is by far the largest model that is used by the most. And we're going to show you the benefits, but also the cautions. The following week, which would be the fourth week, we're going to then look into what we call the irenical approach. Daniel, what does irenics mean, and why do we call it the irenical approach?
Well, irenics is, of course, dealing with the peaceful way of approaching. So they deal a lot with dialogue, friendship evangelism, outreach in a social context. So they try to meet the person. And there are a lot of benefits to that we will explore. I will focus on that. I'll give some theological background and historical background on this particular irenical approach. Irenics means peace. It's from the Greek word meaning peace.
And then I'll come around and show you some of the difficulties. And it's not that there's a difficulty with the approach itself. There are some things, cautions that you need to be aware about when you use this approach. That's my job, is to be cautionary and to show you both sides. There's two sides to every approach, to every methodology. From the irenical approach, the fifth week, we're going to introduce two more models. What are the two models we're introducing the fifth week?
Okay, we're going to take on the contextual model and also the gospel in the Quran model. Of course, the contextual will deal with putting things into context, putting into the way that the church works and how it will reach out to people. The gospel in the Quran model is pretty interesting because this has been used effectively, but it also has problems because you're starting with the Quran. So you're giving credibility to the Quran from the beginning. And I'll talk about how this can be very helpful. And Jay, how will you approach this?
Well, in some ways, the contextual model is something that Muslims have no idea. Muslims don't understand what we mean. This is something that is unique to Christianity. The idea of being all things to all people. When Christ sent us out to go, starting in Judea, Galilee, Judea, and to the uttermost parts of the earth, the Great Commissioning, as we call it. He wanted us to go and to take the gospel, but in the context. And probably the best model, of course, would be Paul himself. What he did in Ephesus, he did not do in Philippi. What he did in Philippi, he did not do in Corinth. What he did in Corinth, he did not do in Berea. And so in every place he went, he ameliorated the way that he actually spoke about it and also applied it depending on the context that he was in. That's one of the beauties of Christianity. It is so contextual. It is probably the easiest religion to contextualize so that you don't destroy the culture, you don't destroy the language, you don't destroy the people. You actually introduce the gospel so that it fits that context. But there are some problems, especially when you go too far and you become syncretistic. And so I'm going to talk about the cautionary parts of it. I'm going to also use the gospel in the Quran is you might say a model of the contextual model. So it's a application of the contextual model. So Daniel's going to show you how it works, how it's been done, where it's worked, and some of the benefits. And I'm going to say, hold on, there are some difficulties even with the gospel in the Quran. So that's the 5th week. The 6th week, we then move into interfaith dialogue. These are the meetings of better understanding, MBUs they call them. We have done them all over the world. I've been involved in maybe 100 of these. And these are some of the most popular. This is probably one of the most popular models today because it can be done on the internet. It can be done by Zoom like we're doing with our courses. It can be done in a home. It can be done in a lecture hall. It can be done on a university campus. You name it, you can do it. And that's why it's so popular. You might say it gets the ball going. It's almost pre-evangelistic. This is not evangelism. This is actually introducing it. Wouldn't you say so, Daniel?
I think so, because it is the basis of so many other things that people bring in. But it is it's using a irenic method in many ways. But it's expanding that through dialogue and friendship. And it's very popular on college campuses. And that's where I will give a lot of examples because that's what a lot of people are familiar with.
You might say it's probably the easiest thing to do to get people, two sides together. You get both the Christians and the Muslims in the same room. How do you do that? You have a dialogue on a subject that they disagree on, but they still need to have a conversation about it. So it's a discussion, it's a dialogue. And that's why they're so popular, because it's a great way. Muslims like it, Christians like it. Sometimes they have the three-way dialogue with Jews, Christians, and Muslims, or Hindu Christians and Muslims, or atheist Christians and Muslims. And there have been many, many, many examples. Maybe some of you have even been involved in this. So it's going to be one that Daniel's going to love introducing. I'm going to come along and say, hold on. There are difficulties. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to have to wait and see. You're going to have to join up to hear that. Now, that will be on the 6th week. The penultimate week, which is the 7th week, is the insider movement. Now, some of you may have no idea what we're talking about. Daniel, how would you define insider, and why do we call it the insider movement? It helped these people here, because I can see a lot of people that are looking at us scant. This is one they don't know or don't understand. Help them out with this.
Well, this is a movement that's been very popular in the last 20, 30 years because it's been successful in the sense that it is when missionaries or those who work with Muslims will allow the Muslims to retain a lot of their culture. They don't even have to say that they're Christians if they come to Christ in some way. They can still worship in the mosque. They can still read the Quran. They can still hold back on proclaiming that they are Christians. So it protects them and allows them to stay within their culture, because oftentimes they're pushed out. So the insider movement is keeping them inside the mosque, so to speak, but yet as Christ followers, hopefully, and those that can reach out to their Muslim friends.
Okay, so remaining inside, that's where the term comes, to
Remaining
stay inside, remaining inside Islam, not leaving Islam because of the social disparity, that all the problems that brings, both social, emotional, financial, you name it, even in some cases physical. So that's the insider movement. I'm going to come and show you that there are some real problems with this movement. This is one movement I do not agree with. You'll see that I have had lots of experience in this area. I have been confronting the insider movement for years, and I'm not ashamed to say so. I'm very much against the insider movement for a lot of reasons. So You may not agree with me. Daniel and I may even have a debate on this, but this is what we like to do in our courses. We like to show that which is controversial and that which is also ephemeral. And we need to make sure that we bring both sides together and have a healthy debate so that you benefit from it as a student, so you know where they're either to go with it or not to go with it. So that's the penultimate week. We then come to the last week, and that's the one that I love the most, because this is my model. This is the model that I follow. This is the model that I do. And this is what we know as the confrontational model. Daniel, you're a confrontationalist, are you not? Or maybe you're not. Where are you on this? Where do you stand?
Oh, you'll have to wait and see until then. But this is the area that Jay excels in, and he's been a leader in this area. So we're going to take different roles on this one. He's going to tell the background. He's going to give the benefits of the confrontational. I'm going to take the other side, and for the purposes of really explaining these things, I will look at the detriments to the confrontational. I will play the part of some of these critics that Jay has had through the years, so that we get a better picture of what works and what is effective and what people are saying about it and whether they're right or wrong.
So Daniel, in some ways, every one of these lectures, you're taking the positive, I'm taking the negative. In this one, we're flipping it. I cannot take the negative. Maybe I should, but I don't want to. I really want to show you the positive, and I want Daniel to really hold me to the fire. I want him to show me all the problems that can come up, and we're going to have a kind of debate within the lecture. We will do the lecture, and then we'll open it up for all of you to then take sides and see where you stand on this, because the confrontationalist approach is controversial. I admit it has always been controversial. Even from the time of Paul, who's probably our best advocate for the confrontational model. Jesus was a confrontationalist, and it's always has been controversial. So we end with that one because it's probably the one that is causing the most questioning, and also people who are not sure where to go with it, or even if it should be used. That's the 8 weeks. Now, Daniel, this is, as you can tell, this is only for Christians. Please, I have to say this every time that we introduce these courses. This is only for Christians. This is not for atheists or humanists. Certainly, this is not for Muslims, because we belong to an institution, a Christian institution. Veritas International University, housed there, has its headquarters there in California, is a seminary for the Calvary Chapel churches. We are both on staff. Dr. Daniel Janosik and myself, we're both on staff there at the seminary. Therefore, we have to abide by the bylaws of the seminary. And this is a seminary for Christians only. I'm sorry for those of you who would like to take this course who are outside, but this really is privy to other Christians. We've given you quite a bit in just the last few minutes that some of you may not feel comfortable with, especially if you're a Muslim. And that's why we need to be careful that this is only for Christians. Now, be that as may, any Christian who believes that Jesus is Lord and that he died on the cross for you and me can take this course. And we encourage as many of you as possible. You don't have to take it just as a full-time student. Daniel, can you explain what we mean by full-time student and what we mean for academic excellence? What are we talking about there?
Okay, full-time student would be an enrolled student in the MA program. This is a certified master's program in apologetics and polemics to Islam. So and we have some great students who are enrolled as MA students and some doctoral students as well. And so both of these have been involved all the way through the other 9 courses. And there will be those students also enrolled in this course. Do you want me to go ahead and give the price of this now, Jay?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. For this, it's a regular credit course, 3 credits, and you will have an extended 7 weeks beyond to finish all this work, the reading and the papers and so on. We'll just do the lectures in the first 8 weeks. But the cost of the course would be $960 or $320 for a credit hour, $960 for the course. And if you need to register, it'll be a little bit more, up to $1,000 for that first registration process.
So that's for now, Daniel. There are also some doctoral students that may be joining us as well. So it'll be both master's and doctoral level. That is for accreditation.
Right.
This is, we're fully accredited in the United States. So any of you, you don't even have to belong to VIU. You can actually come in from other institutions and get credit for this course. Am I correct on that?
Yes, and they will be able to have it transferred. Most schools will be glad to transfer, usually up to 12 credits. That's 4 courses, and so you could take those with us and transfer them in.
Okay. Now, there are many of you who say, hold on a minute, I don't need this for credit. I don't want to have to pay that kind of price. I just want to learn the material, but I also want to be involved in the course, and I also want to be seen part of the discussions, because all of those students who are taking it for credit do have discussions with each other during the week. Also, they have to write papers. They have to do a final exam. They have to participate in the class discussions. If you don't want to take it for credit, you can be an audit student. An audit student pays $280 for the whole course. That's it, $280 for the entire course. That's US dollars. Now, what does that give them? Well, that means that they can participate in Populi, which is the platform for all of the students and for us teachers to be part and see our discussions, to even engage in the discussions. In fact, in the past courses, Daniel, some of the best students who've been engaging in those discussions have been our audit students, haven't they?
Right, and they can ask a lot of the questions of us and get answers through those discussions. So that's available to them, because they can get to the course site, and there are a lot of other resources that we put up there. The recorded videos are in place, so it's a lot easier for them to get the materials.
Yeah, it's all on one platform, and they have access to us during the week because of that. Now, there are others of you who say, I don't really need that. I just want to learn the material. Then you become what we call a personal enrichment student, PE student. You only pay $185. You do not participate in the Populi. You either show up at the courses to listen to the lectures, but you don't have to do that. None of the students have to show up and be actually live, because many of you who are going to sign up, you live in Europe, or you live in Asia, or you live in Africa, and at 8 o'clock in the evening here on the East Coast, you're fast asleep, because it'll be 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning for you. So for those students, all of them, doesn't matter where you are in the world, you will get it the next day. Why? Because we record every one of our lectures. And then I take those lectures and then I put them up onto Vimeo. And then we take the PowerPoints, because both Daniel and I, we put together PowerPoints for every lecture we do. We then send you the PowerPoint the very next day, or the day after, depending on if we have any problems. But we send you not only the video of the recording, so you can watch it at your own leisure, wherever you are and whenever you are free, but then you have the PowerPoint, and you can download the PowerPoint. You don't have to, it doesn't matter what student you are, whether you are full-time as a doctoral or master student, or you're an audit student, or you're a personal enrichment, you get the lecture coming to you the next day, and you get the PowerPoint and any other PDFs, any other auxiliary material that we send you, which we do. We send an awful lot of auxiliary. The great thing about the audit students and the PE students, you don't have to take any tests, and you don't have to write any papers. You can just sit and learn the material, and then you have the PowerPoints to use in your own ministry when or wherever you wish to do that. So this is kind of a course for everybody, and it's right where you're at, but you do need to register. We're starting on the 28th of March. That's at the end of this month. And we go to May 23rd. I think this is the right rate. May 23rd. That's 8 weeks. We'd love to have as many of you on board as possible. Do sign up. There is the email. It's info@ves.edu. Anything else you want to say, Daniel, before we sign off?
No, except that this will be a very helpful course in understanding what Christians have tried to do in reaching out to Muslims. This is a very important part of the whole course load that you would be taking, because this is where we get to take the gospel out and learn how to do it well. There are a lot of things that have been done in the past that have not reached Muslims, but now they're so open because of a variety of reasons that we'll go through, and we need to learn how to reach them better. I just read an article from Voice of the Martyrs of what's happening with the Tuaregs and the Fulani in Africa. And it's amazing what God is doing with these converts who are going through and using different methods. We need to learn what they're doing that's working so well, because they have hundreds and thousands that come to the Lord whenever they preach. So we need to learn these secrets and different methodologies so that we can be more effective. And that's what we want to do. We want to reach people for Christ, to bring them into the kingdom, to show them how they can live forever with Christ.
This is going to be both theological and theoretical, but also very practical. We want to make this practical. We make our all of our courses as practical as possible, because we know many of you who are going to go into the mission field. Some of you may not even leave your home or your place. You may want to do it right where you're at with Muslims who are at your work, or maybe Muslims who are in your family or your neighbors next door. You're wondering where and how can you do it? Can you actually apply it? What are some methods that work and what are some methods that don't? What fits your personality? What fits your gifting? How has God gifted you? We're going to show you and unpack all of the ones that are out there, the most popular models, and then you decide what works for you. You decide how God is going to take you on this path, engaging with Muslims either face to face, or maybe over the internet, or maybe even within your own family. God bless you. It's been terrific having and introducing this course. We would like to have as many of you as possible. We're looking forward for a few weeks from now, March 28th, to have as many of you as possible join us. Here's Daniel and myself. Until March 28th. The two of us, over and out.